They couldn't let it be stolen. Good boy.
Ever since Resident Evil 9 released, I've been getting a ton of challenge requests. Maybe no healing, maybe a quadfecta, but one caught my eye. Knife only. Or technically knife and hatchet only, but knife sounds cooler in the YouTube title. Insanity mode is this game's form of medieval torture. Adding more enemies, fewer items, and more enemy health, it would make any playthrough absolute nightmare fuel. So, doing a knife-only challenge on this difficulty would be nearly impossible. But like, what if we attempted this challenge on Insanity mode anyway? Today I made some custom rules to live up to this channel's nonsense standards. We had to play on the game's hardest difficulty. No throwables allowed. Wow, F me I guess. No guns allowed. No infinite knives allowed. And of course, knife only. Hatchet too. I would never forget you, Kennedy. Alright, grab your snacks. This is going to be painful. What's up, homies and nomads? We meet again. Homies and nomads have it. Ada, not now. I'm recording. This is the first ever knife-only challenge on this YouTube channel. Can I get a freaking W down in the comments? After being kidnapped by our personal stalker, we find ourselves in what seems to be a nice house. But upon further investigation, we find a book that reads, "Have you seen the shadow ghost? Because she's watching you." Oh dear God. Evading detection like I owe the IRS money this April, we eventually make it to a gate where we run into Leon.
You okay?
Whoa, wait a minute. Let's rewind just a bit.
Should be around here.
Walking down the calm streets of Renwood, we are abruptly shoulder-checked by an old man who would eventually pick us up and kidnap us. Conveniently, Leon Kennedy was there, so stepping into the shoes of the 51... Oh, I forgot I had that on. Being thrown into our first combat segment, we of course only use the hatchet here, however using our own two legs seemed to be more fitting, as we simply run past them and complete the first encounter. When we arrive at the care center though, things get a little out of hand. After stepping out of our $240,000 Porsche, yes, I read the comments, we are kindly greeted by a lady who has nothing but love inside, and a chainsaw. In this room, we are forced to fight two phases of zombies. The first batch has a chainsaw enemy, which, for obvious reasons we can't use for this challenge, trying to fight these people off normally didn't quite work. So I had to find a strategy. In this room, there is also a ledge. A ledge we can use to split up the enemies and do damage whenever it's safe. Before this encounter, I also sold all my weapons, as well as upgraded the hatchet durability, which was very much needed here. The two normal zombies weren't too hard to take care of, however the chainsaw one was a bit more complicated. When we eventually get it down to just him, we can use the ledge to bait him down, do 2 attacks, bait him back up, before rinsing and repeating until he goes down. And then the second phase comes in, and we do it all over again. This might be a 4-weeker. After passing through more hallways, we officially make our way to Grace and deal with her mommy issues, completely ignoring mine due to Ada Wong not being in this game. Nevertheless, Leon passes Grace the Requiem, which we immediately stuff into the item box because for today, and today only, we were allergic to guns. Officially taking control of Grace for the next few hours, we had some work to do. Our goal was to make it out of the care center by collecting 3 quartz pieces to put inside the store. Well, let's get to work, I guess. In the room next to the save room, we meet up with a little girl named Emily. This clearly being an unredacted ad for Capcom's Prime Beta. We would need to collect 3 levels of keycard access just to get her out of that cell. Starting things off, we are completely empty-handed, so our main sub-goal is to get the first knife. So heading through the west side door, we can enter a kitchen where we distract a butcher in order to grab the antique coin and sneak past him. Antique coins in a normal playthrough can be used to purchase helpful items, which in this playthrough still counts due to specifically the RIP knife. It's pretty much the difference between knives in the US and knives in the UK. Since we don't have enough coins to purchase this yet, we must collect our first makeshift knife, which conveniently is in this hallway left to the kitchen, just sitting on a counter. Smaller than I imagined. With this in hand, we still had to deal with the light zombie. So sneaking past him using the classic switch and bait, we circle around back to the save room, grabbing an ink ribbon along the way. After shadowboxing with our newly obtained knife, we cut back through the hallway and make our way through the dining room, grabbing a blood pack, disregarding the ammo in the room to the left, where we run into our first problem as Grace. This guy. Normally we could just shoot him, but without the gun, we had to get creative. I tried sitting that out and waiting for the perfect moment, but apparently with him moving at the speed of light, that wasn't possible. Oh my god. I did remember that this set of stairs eventually led to a herb, but now we had another problem. He was patrolling the area. So once again, patiently waiting for him to go away, we make our move towards the bar, quietly maneuvering around the weirdly attractive singing lady, which I just found out here her name is also Corey. Corey with a 1R type shit. Behind the bar is a safe with 3 antique coins inside, so obviously grabbing that apparently took enough time for the zombies to notice me. You're joking! You're joking! Completely and utterly defenseless since the knife does literal chip damage, all we could do was run. When we make it back to the save room, we make our first save, do some inventory management, and make it to a room where we collect some scrap. A red jewel, as well as the first quartz piece we plug into the door. The red jewel can be placed inside the casino door to grant access to where our mini shop was for the antique coins. With exactly 5 in our inventory at this point, we could officially buy the RE9 knife, which has some juicy specs, and even juicier words. That makes me hard. Now in this room, a zombie wakes up, but since hand-to-hand combat is limited with the knife, we couldn't fight him. So having to bait around him using the big table, we can grab the east wing key card from the hand, so using it and now being in the east side, we now have to cut through the surgery area. But since using the hemorrhoid injector is against this challenge's rules, we would have to stealthily sneak past them, heading into the next room, where we gather the blood collector, a vital item in this playthrough. The only way we can craft knives is with scrap and blood. Blood is also used to craft anything else like ink ribbons or even heals. However, you mostly get blood from killing enemies. But with this challenge being knife only, our kills were going to be dumbed down, meaning I would have to get creative. With the blood collector in our pocket, we now have to cut through this hallway, but with more enemies spawning in, we would have to hide in this bush and patiently wait while we talk to our boss.
In my day, I did my share of sneaking into enemy territory.
Wrong game. Eventually, they split up perfectly, allowing us to move onward into this room. That led, unfortunately, up to the dynamic duo. Here we go again. Destroying anything in sight out of pure anguish, I attempted to run past them, but needle to my neck, it didn't go so well. Second time around, I somehow squeezed by with minor damage, grabbing the level 1 wristband, spawning in Chunk, before running into what I thought was the safe room, but of course, they followed me in here. However, I figured out if you go inside of Gideon's office, you can actually trigger them back to their original state. The idea here was to get Chunk to kill those two, however, for whatever reason, they were completely invincible to him. This took an embarrassing amount of attempts. But eventually I sucked up my fate and went into the next idea. Have the mentally ill person try to damage them. However, of course that didn't work either. Meaning later we would have to deal with them again, whether we liked it or not. Now having the level 1 wristband in hand, we needed to use it on this door. However, the cleaning lady, weirdly resembling Casca from Berserk, stops us every time. So now, we have to kill her. Sneaking up on her, we can land a few good hits before she eventually moves and grabs us, causing us to waste our RP knife. However, by either divine intervention or pure luck, that seemed to be her last bit of health. So quickly grabbing her blood and our very much used knife, we bait the psych ward patrol away from the door while we go in to loot. The items we found were rather important. Oh yeah. Not just that, but also the pantry key. Which it was here that I remembered that in my last challenge, it had a takeout charm that worked perfectly for this challenge. Only problem being it was highly guarded by zombies. A risk I was willing to take. On our way to the pantry, we buy the hip pouch, using 3 of our 5 antique coins before attempting to sneak past a zombie and opening the pantry door, where we would now have to somehow find a way to get these guys out of the way, because I quite literally do not have enough knife durability to kill them. Running to the newly unlocked save room, we can of course save and wait patiently for the right moment to slip by. However, there was still one camping inside, and with me about to be sandwiched, I back off and took the long way around, diverting their attention elsewhere, while we ran into the pantry, grab all the items like some blood, as well as the stakeout takeout charm, increasing knife power and durability. I mean, it doesn't need explaining why we would need this. Somehow slipping back into the save room, we would now have to go into the garage to grab our first vital organ. But it's here that I realized something. We would need a gun to get past this part. Believe me, I tried every possible solution here, but no matter what, we need to shoot the driver. So grabbing Leon's Requiem, we kindly use his last bullet before the bottom furnace opens up, and we are actually able to knife this thing to get it to stop.
Give me a fucking break!
With one failed attempt already underneath our belt, we gladly take the newly acquired lungs upstairs to do some more looting. Here we can actually sneak into this room by distracting the blind enemy by breaking this box, letting us grab a blood specimen as well as a very important empty injector we would need later. Doing this blood specimen puzzle is vital because it lets us craft med injectors, basically the strongest healing item in the game. Now needing the second organ, we head back downstairs. I tried to do this stealthily, but yeah, that didn't work. So now we are running for our lives. Using the wrench, we unlock the door, grab the final organ, and start baiting the zombie around the corner, while continuously following closely behind the butcher and dodging everything along the way. Eventually, we make it back to the east wing where we can use the 2 organs for this puzzle, except it is guarded by an elite level berserker.
Let us begin the chant of offering.
Not only that, but this big fat chud was completely blocking our escape. Luring him out wasn't really an option. And even if Chunk could kill these enemies eventually, we needed another way around. I did try baiting him around the body, but Grace literally refuses to do the puzzle unless you are safe.
No!
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Eventually, I figured out we could lure him into this room, run him through the place, and get just enough time to complete the puzzle before sprinting back to safety, but the timing was tight.
It's over for you, nigga.
Thankfully, we don't actually need to fight the walking corpse because he eventually dies on his own. And shout out to the homies and homies because someone gave me this absolute elite level info, which let us safely grab the ID wristband level 2. Only one more to go. However, we must suffer again. Remember that empty injector we picked up earlier? We can actually craft steroids with it. This permanently increases our health while also acting as a full-on heal. Only problem is we need another blood specimen, and of course it's guarded by a ton of zombies. One inside and many outside chasing us. And somehow I had to deal with Chunk too. Eventually, the best method I found was cutting back through the original area and waiting for Chunk to pass by. If you follow closely behind him, it can actually trigger his charge attack, which kills the zombies that would have been following us.
God, my head. Oh, I'm so hurt. Oh, Corey, my head.
Entering the room safely, we use the ID wristband level 1 to open this door, and now we would just have to deal with the one zombie inside, which obviously means knife time. I figured out that on average, the RIP knife combined with our charm kills most zombies in 3 or 4 hits. Since this one is a jump scare zombie, I equipped our almost broken knife first, so once we get grabbed, we can use that knife to stagger him, do our 3 regular attacks, completely obliterating him altogether. Inside this room is the blood specimen we needed, which lets us research steroids. However, the only one useful one for this challenge is the healing one that increases our maximum health. So we immediately craft one and use it. Now it was time to go back to our dynamic duo nightmare and grab the acid. Having to pass through these 2 again were painful, but we bait them around in this room, which gives us just enough time to escape into our next hellhole. At first I was being optimistic, thinking we could run past everything. I don't even know why I thought that. This room has 4 different enemy types. The goal was to bring an empty injector in here so the enemies we had to kill would drop enough blood to craft another steroid. That way we could increase our max health and recover the damage we had just took. Using the window to my advantage, I jumped through and triggered everybody, jumping back out and used the compartment to group all 3 enemies together, and this let us pick them off one by one, gathering their blood, craft another steroid, and fully max out our health before going after the singing lady. Oh no. She unfortunately has more health than usual, meaning we'd have to save our steroid for after she grabs us. After breaking free with the knife, we heal, then immediately go for follow-up hits within literally the same second. Focus I hadn't used since my first date with Ada. Now with her dead and the acid in our inventory, we still had to pass through the duo again at low health, and somehow, thank God, we made it through untouched. We enter a room where Gideon fully resets the area, meaning we were finally safe. At least until Gideon creeps us out on a whole different level.
You are only allowed to speak when you beg for permission.
So we decide to run for our lives and use the door method until he leaves the room, letting us continue gathering our second quartz pieces. Heading back down to the main hub, we buy the blood collector manual, fully using up all of our antique coins, before opening the level 2 gate where Emily's level 3 keycard was located, as well as the final quartz piece. But we need help first. So of course grabbing it triggers multiple zombies to spawn, however we can just sit this one out and watch them spread out.
Man, this poor guy is really making a mess right now.
Heading back, we unlock the gate, letting loose what would soon become our inevitable suffering. Taking Emily all the way back to the final quartz piece, we decide to give her some space while she works.
Stay here, Emily. You handle this. I'll, handle that.
Now here, I did want to test if we could just wait safely, but unfortunately we actually have to trigger the zombies by leaving the office for the timer to even start. So my strategy here was once again abusing the window, by beating the zombies either together or separately while constantly checking the right to make sure no one was sneaking up behind us. It seemed to work. If things got too dangerous, we could just hop out the window and repeat the same strategy from the other side. Eventually, near the end, one zombie actually mutates. However, he doesn't know where we're at, and we don't even have to kill him here. So we can just sit back and wait for the audio cue, then sprint back to Emily with the final quartz piece. But because this is Resident Evil, of course things go wrong. Right in front of us, she gets absolutely snatched by the monster, and while we awkwardly watch the monster heal right in front of our face, Emily gets dragged away, along with the final quartz piece. At this point, we had no other choice but to jump down the hole. With Leon being forcefully trapped inside of Gideon's palace, we patiently waited for him to stop harassing us before making our escape. And when we finally tried to move forward, we were about to get impaled. Like, really badly. Because now we had to fight Chunk himself. Now, I wasn't fully expecting this to be that bad. I was wrong. This was torture. Inside this room, there are 2 ladders that we can have a vantage point from, letting us land a few good hits before he falls down fully staggered, giving us time for even more damage in a possible finishing blow, if timed correctly, which I didn't pull off many times. Once he gets back up, we can run to the second ladder and repeat the process. But once both ladders break, you are basically left alone with him, and from that point on, it was pain. There was a statue underneath the second ladder which we could pull down to trip him, giving us more hits. But this one only worked about half of the time because the other half of the time, you were the one being damaged. Oh! And at this point, I genuinely couldn't find another way to beat him, until I noticed something. This man could be juked. Now my name might be Corey, but when it comes to ankle breaking, I wasn't fully confident in the idea. Juking him allows him to run into the wall, giving us just enough time for one more attack. Any more than that, and you were dead. Yo! This strategy was, as you can imagine, extremely slow. But it was my only option, and this option required 21 straight minutes of repeating the same 4 actions with 0 room for error. Oh my gosh, bro. That was horrible. That was actually horrible. I don't ever want to do anything like that again. This video is sponsored by Mental Sleep. So it may come to a surprise for some of you. I'm not only mentally ill in the category of challenges, I'm also a little bit mentally ill with my sleep schedule as well. So it's safe to say whenever I got my Mental Sleep mask, it helped out a lot. Sleeping with this thing on has sped up my ability to fall asleep in time by hours. The strap is very customizable on this thing. Whenever you put it on, you can't see light like underneath. Like it's fully pitch black whenever you put it on. Not only that, but it's also very comfortable. And just a little side note, as someone with curly hair, I really appreciate their different options. Specifically, one of the ones that I received was a silk mask, which if you don't know, people with curly hair prefer things that are made of silk whenever it comes to putting something on your head because it won't frizz out your hair. If you want to check it out and get a better night of sleep, use code Corey for 10% off. And I'm gonna get back to sipping this masochistically. Now free from the carpal tunnel successor, we move on to Gideon's office, unfortunately killing Corey along the way.
No! You guys go, I'll hold her off. I'll stay back and hold her off.
In here, there are multiple waves of enemies. However, I had an idea. Once triggered, we could run all the way back, pretty much untriggering them, allowing us to come back inside the room and pick them off stealthily, one by one. We also take out the enemies that will spawn once the elevator opens. However, once triggered, the doors close, meaning we were stuck inside and forced to face them head on, which was interesting. Using Grace's window strategy, we could sometimes bait them around safely, eventually leading us to the end of Leon's segment. Back to Grace for the mines. Now entering the very dark mines, our goal was simple: find Emily. But first, after stepping into the save room, we enter what I like to call the main hub. Inside are 3 different enemies that will eventually wake up. So taking advantage of the first strike, we take out all 3 early on to avoid dealing with them later. Conveniently, Emily was right next to us. Unfortunately though, so was the monster. So we instantly hide inside of a cell, waiting for her to walk away before starting our next objective. Collect 3 different plugs to unlock Emily's cell and save her. With the first plug in our hands, we use it to open up the gate to a new area where we would have to carefully wait for the zombie to position himself in just the right spot so we could safely take him out. That was bad. That was actually embarrassing. After dealing with him, we grab the second joint plug, pass through a crawl space, and head back towards the save room where I find another zombie we can safely eliminate before he becomes a problem later. Now to use the 2 joint plugs we collected, we needed a special tool to open the machine. And of course, it was sitting in the electrified pool. And in this area, we had to wait for the monster to finish her midnight munchies before making a run back to the save room, cutting through the main hub to go to this area so we could use both plugs. We now enter the next area, which contains the forklift key. This lets us grab a new hip pouch for extra inventory space before backtracking into another section where we would now access the body bag area. Following the very obvious path forward, we reach our next heart attack disguised as gameplay. I feel like as long as I remember which ones wake up, we could probably... Okay. I was wrong on that one. Alright, yeah, this is gonna be great. This feels racist. Actually, I think I might have went overboard with the knives. I don't think I knew that much. Okay, the next 2 should be... I think it's the big guy, right? It's this one. It's the fat guy. Is it not? Okay. Thank God. He just wasn't moving. That was starting to scare me. Oh, and it's this guy too. I forgot. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Bro, Grace's movements suck sometimes. I can't even lie. I think I'm having slight PTSD from the last time I did this. On the no running one. You guys don't know how long that took me. That took me way too long. Y'all need to chill out. Oh yes. After thankfully surviving that section, we gladly collect all the blood that was gifted to us and bring the 3 joint plugs back to Emily's cage to finally set her free. This triggers a surprisingly smooth chase sequence where we escape via elevator. Now with all 3 quartz pieces in my hand, as well as my Shayla, we can finally step foot outside.
It's not safe here. We did it.
Finally getting a breath of fresh air, I immediately take a dip in the pond to grab a knife, because you never know when you're gonna need another one. Before dropping Emily off with some random guy I met 2 seconds ago.
Stay right there!
He seems nice, I guess. Now separated, we head back underground, where we would need to find this man's helicopter keys. And after searching the area, we eventually locate them, but escaping becomes the real problem.
I don't know if I can be alone again. Man, I just want you to walk the belts on it like really bad right now.
Normally here you can use the fire hydrant weapon to clear out the enemies, but because of our challenge's rules, once again getting absolutely violated by them, I'm sitting here acting like I didn't make them, we just had to run past everything and pray. And somehow, It worked. But after making it back to the helicopter with the NPC and Emily, we get attacked by elite level zombies before being taken down and witnessing a mother's worst fear.
Emily, are you okay? Oh, Emily.
With Emily severely injured, we are forced to retreat into a church, but this time we switch back to Leon, where we would have to protect her, and unfortunately where we would need to buy the sniper rifle and use it. Because as crazy as it sounds, you can't exactly stand there and watch Emily and Grace get eaten alive. I can't believe I actually tried to see if this was possible. So once again, another unfortunate gun-used mark against the challenge. We can, however, take out the zombies before they wake up to avoid being overrun, as well as jumping down and making our way towards the church. We pass multiple foot fetish zombies, which took way too many attempts to pass by, and officially enter the church, our next burning prison. Inside is a full horde of zombies, along with what I call a bloater, this game's tank enemy with extra health and much higher damage. Initially, I attempted this normally, hoping the explosives could be enough. However, at the end of it, it quite wasn't working. However, there was one singular trick to this section, one I haven't heard uttered out of anyone else's mouth. So prepare yourselves when I say this. What if I told you there was a way to make it to where no other zombies spawn except the bloater? After testing my hypothesis, I realized the extra waves only spawn after you pop one of his bubbles. Meaning, if we killed him without popping a single bubble, we could isolate the fight. Now we just needed to find a way to actually kill him. There was a square area in the burning church where we could use the same strategy from Hunk, slowly chipping his health down while avoiding every attack. And after doing the math, I realized this would take around 70 knife hits, just hatchet hits, I'm sorry. And after a grueling 15 minutes of straight agony, he finally went down.
Oh my gosh. Oh my god. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just dreaming about you following that Instagram. You know, since you made it this far, comment your favorite timestamp.
We then switch back to Grace and Emily, placing her on what seems like an IKEA hospital bed before going on a mission to kill the monster once and for all. Since her weakness is sunlight, we would need to power up 3 generators to open the roof. However, normally you would have the rec room here, and we do not. When we jump down, we instantly run to the first generator and trigger her spawn. Using her animation to slip past, we barely make it to a light lamp where we can turn it on, temporarily despawning her and giving us just enough time to activate the first unit. Whenever I was going for the second one, we actually mess up, forcing us to head to the different generator, but it ended up working better since there was a light next to it. Now for the final unit, we would have to rely completely on our stealth abilities to reach it. But once reached, we are forced into a cutscene that puts us on the opposing side of the unit. So we were forced to run back, hit another light to stun her, and then sprint back again to finally activate the last unit. All 3 generators complete. Now it was time to open the roof. And at this point, I honestly wasn't even sure if knifing her would work here, but hey, what do you know? It did.
Who killed Hannibal? Who killed Hannibal?
Really is a shame. She was my Shayla. Homies and nomads, Grace's section was just about complete. But first, we had to watch my Shayla transform into a monster, where we would normally be forced to shoot her as Leon, except I didn't do it. Matter of fact, the game did it for me. Does that count? After Grace and Leon part ways, Grace gets introduced to Zeno, this game's version of Wesker, where she is taken back to where it all started. Now playing as Leon, we are forced to fight a spider, which the first time around did not go so well. So I reloaded the save and decided to farm some money first, enough to buy some armor before heading back into the fight. And returning to the area, we would first have to deal with her babies, which was honestly annoying enough.
Oh, just stick it in me already.
But now it was time for the actual annoyance. I tried just about everything here. At first I thought a decent strategy would be to use the bombs on the right to deal explosive damage while also stunning her at the same time, opening up her weak spots, allowing us to get a few good hits in before running to the other one and doing the same thing. Then running to this wall, triggering her to jump through, allowing us to land one hit before backing off. And sometimes this did work, but she had one attack that was undodgeable. And this attack had no real way to not trigger it, making it RNG. Which for a hatchet only run, I would rather not deal with. Until I realized something. If we camped in this specific spot, we could actually fight her head on. Most of her attacks could actually be parried. There was really only one attack, but even that could be avoided by running to her right side at the correct timing. Eventually she starts shooting her babies out of her ginormous badon, but that's also conveniently her weak spot. And even better, those projectiles can be parried too. Meaning she was basically giving us at least one free hit every cycle. With all this combined, we were finally able to take her down and move on to the rest of Raccoon City. Okay, so for Leon's Section A, we need to find 3 items scattered across the ruins of Raccoon City. For this part specifically, I'm splitting it into 5 segments, starting with the 2 holes we all have to dive into. But before that, unfortunately, I have to introduce another forced gun use. Literally just to shoot these wooden things down, bringing us to our 3rd fail of the challenge. And this first hardship was about to be as stressful as our first pregnancy scare. Nope. Yeah. Sometimes I question if my sanity is starting to take a toll and making me so that's them down. That guy's just laying there. Alright, so this is the hard part. Okay. My goal is to just turn the wheel as much as possible before, like, right before he attacks me. Go! Go! Watch this. I'm not gonna kill him. I'm not killing him. I'm not doing that. We just need to get him as far away as possible. That was perfect. Perfect. Come on, guys. Stick it in me. That entire thing, just do it. I'm gonna kick you off the edge too. We can throw this at him, stun him, and we are out of here, bro. I'm not dealing with that. Oh, he's gonna impale me. Come on! Please! Thank you. Okay, hold on. That was easy. We got that. With segment 1 complete, we move on to segment 2, where I take heavy inspiration from the last challenge by running past almost every enemy here, grabbing what we need and immediately leaving, if we can avoid being hit off. Oh, come on! Deciding to take another breather by filling up the pothole in our way. We head back to the shop where it becomes very clear that since we weren't upgrading weapons, our money was starting to stack up. So my main goal with the shop in this challenge is to obviously get armor level 3 while also buying every herb available. Since our hatchet is already fully upgraded, we don't have to worry about that. Now entering the gas station, we had to relive where this challenge all started. A chainsaw. Since using the chainsaw obviously isn't a hatchet, I had to find another way to deal with the chainsaw enemies after clearing out the surrounding zombies. While running around dealing with them, I kept taking fire damage. Wait a minute. We can kill these guys with fire. It just takes forever. So long, actually, that the main chainsaw guy spawned before the first one even died. But once he finally went down, I knew we were in for a long ride. The strategy here was baiting him into this rectangular fire pattern and keeping him burning as long as possible. This took so long that I literally installed a mod just to confirm he was taking damage. And he actually was. It was not even chip damage. I don't even know how you describe this. So I threw on a podcast, sat back, and watched this man slowly cook. Eventually we got what we needed and moved on to segment 4, where we somehow had to deal with the artillery enemies without using their, well, artillery. While making the rules of this challenge, I had to draw a very fine line. Using explosive barrels felt fair, but cannons that one-shot enemies didn't quite feel that good. So the idea here was to use infighting to our advantage while hiding in this corner, although the enemies sometimes become pros apparently. After everyone was dead down here, we literally just sent it. And by send it, I mean we booked it like we were trying to ruin Barry Allen's day. Goated ones get that reference.
It was me, Barry. I jerked.
Once we grabbed the item we needed, we escape into segment 5, the elevator gauntlet. To even reach this area, we were forced to use a couple of bullets to break wood or glass, which honestly made me question, do these even count? First, we had to drop the elevator, which was easier than expected, but after that, we kept failing over and over. because of one simple attack from this souped up zombie. It obviously couldn't be parried at all. The first few waves were manageable, but one run I got the luckiest RNG imaginable. Oh no way! Dude, that just saved me. That actually just saved me. Yes, dude, that's crazy. After finally getting all pieces, we could blow open the gate and take the motorcycle, not just to Ore Farm, but apparently Failure Farm too. Because yes, I actually tested if we could avoid using the gun here. And of course the game still forces us to. Meaning we now had a very painful 5th forced gun use added to the counter. Officially stepping foot inside the RPD to continue our mission to find Grace, we discover her with Sino, absolutely lore dumping on this poor woman for dear life.
What is Elpis?
The power to upset the military balance of the world.
Why do something so...
The last virus, created by Spencer,
What do you...
designed to control human consciousness.
All while I'm anxiously waiting for one thing, Mr. X. And sure enough, he shows up and proceeds to walk us down into what would become one of the worst boss fights possible for this challenge. Almost all of his attacks were parryable, he was insanely tanky, and our hatchet durability was breaking almost every few attacks. That was becoming a serious problem. So to counter this, I ended up buying Hunk's hatchet specifically not to use for damage, but rather a parry tool. We could parry with that, then switch back to our main hatchet to deal real damage since it hits way harder.
Oh my gosh.
And after finally getting into the rhythm, with a podcast playing in the background, shout out Speakeasy, we finally beat Mr. X. Oh, now we had to make our way toward the lab. But to get there, we are forced into more gun use. Not here, not here, not even there, but right before the boss, and the boss itself. Meaning I sadly had to update the counter again. 7 total failures. So I'm currently editing this, very sleep deprived, and I am now noticing that I had extra 2 failures added to this. In the Raccoon City, there were 2 different ladders that needed to either be shot down or blown up. So, 9 fails. When we first enter the lab, we are playing as Leon, and after reaching a computer, we see a couple of R6 operators preparing to absolutely destroy our defenses with the brutal Thatcher and Ace combo. And to even leave this room, we actually have to kill every single one of them. When we exit, we are gracefully given about 2 seconds to prepare, so running to the left, we Hitman style take down the first guy before clearing out the rest by any means possible. These enemies had extremely smart AI, making the hatchet only run absolutely brutal. However, what was waiting for us in the next room was even worse than I could have imagined.
Targets are up, boys. Let's kick this off.
In here, we were basically being spawn camped by multiple enemies, so our first run in, we bait their opening attacks before either hitting the tank or sprinting to their ladder, and sneaking all the way towards them, where surprisingly they don't see or hear anything. Here we can take out the first guy quietly, however once you take out the other, the remaining enemies get alerted. And since these guys flank like they're in a tournament match, fighting them head on wasn't the best option. We simply had to be strategic. This time after taking out the second enemy, we hit the tank to blind one of them while attacking the other, and now it became a game of who was more patient. Both of us constantly repositioning, him trying to get the angle to shoot while I was trying to get the angle to strike. And it was here that I realized I never took out the third guy. I was gonna have to lock it. Seeing my chance, I took it, breaking the tank to blind the last one and finishing him off. But wasting no time, another wave appeared, one that was impossible to fight alone. So, we released the liquor from his cage and make this one a more reasonable fight, eventually taking out the shield guy and finally confirming victory. Now, after wiping out his entire platoon, we had to fight Hunk himself, waiting just beyond this Hannibal Lecter-inspired lab. Wouldn't be a Quarry video unless if I said interesting. Now usually whenever I fight him, I prefer using only the hatchet anyway, so this part wasn't terrible. However, the guys that jump you afterwards were a huge problem. For the life of me, I couldn't figure out how to escape alive. Until I did, and almost threw it away. Officially making it back to Grace and West,
So tell me, Grace.
Do it jiggle.
I don't know.
Of course you do.
We escape with her in the most dramatic way possible, and Leon passes out due to Raccoon City's curse.
Leon, are you okay?
So then I was dressed up across the line when I'm serious because you know my dad's like, Gideon was crazy.
Now, here's where I need to explain something. When creating the rules, I said no throwables. However, in a knife and hatchet only challenge, it shouldn't really matter if I use throwables as long as they don't deal damage. Meaning, we could still use them to distract the lickers. Now, when we first enter, we hit the realization of a lifetime. How our blood collecting days were probably over. There wasn't a single enemy in the lab worth killing. Meaning, anything craftable with blood was basically gone. We were, dare I say, as broke as Spider-Man. Our first goal is grabbing a key to let Leon through later, which wouldn't have been that stressful if I didn't mess up the one bottle throw I had. No way. So with balls of steel, we just run past everyone, grabbing the key, somehow dodging the liquor, and running back. Now when we return, we need 2 orbs, one of which is in a very crowded room. I honestly didn't have much of a plan here other than purposely getting grabbed once as much enemies flood in as possible, giving me just enough iframes to slip by and grab the second orb. Surprisingly, with the knowledge that I had from last challenge, I actually cleared this section pretty cleanly. Collecting the orbs, sneaking past the liquors until I couldn't because the ones in the previous room are still aggroed. So running for dear life, we plug both orbs in and complete Grace's segment, where she watches a very interesting video.
See, you're shy, but you're doing it, huh?
Now we enter the final section of the game. Playing as Leon again, we had to deal with his constant tuberculosis attacks, and I decided to attempt something risky. And by risky, I mean running past everything, parrying almost every attack, and running past everything again. When we returned to the elevator gauntlet though, I tried using the lure strategy, but I think they patched it. If they didn't, I would have been so smooth here. So unfortunately, having to do things the hard way, we did what we do best. Wing it, baby. This is so much. They need to stop, bro. They're throwing way too. And my W button's broken because of the freaking coffee that I spilled on my keyboard. Isn't there more enemies that spawn in? I think we should wait for those. There we go. Thank God. Okay, now. Oh, perfect. Perfect. Why don't you go contact Arthur with all that freaking coffee, man? Throw it. What? It wasn't throwing. Perfecto. Please explode. Please kill him. Yes, baby! And now we were finally done with the challenge. Well, technically. I could end it right here with the press of the button, or I could torture myself even more by fighting Gideon's boss. With Victor, Gideon's fight being so rough, even to the point where he randomly rips our shirt off for whatever odd reason, I clearly had to study this man. What I figured out is that almost all of his attacks are parryable. Yes, even the rocket launcher. There is one specific attack that will guarantee you a hit while still giving you enough time to parry the follow-up attack. Sometimes he even chains that same attack multiple times in a row, allowing you to get a ton of damage in with little to no risk. That's pretty much the entire strategy for this boss. Now for the next one, yeah, I don't know about this one. You know, every single time you make it to the end of one of my videos, I just can't help but just want to give you a kiss. I only have 2 different types of herpes too, so you don't gotta worry. Home is no mats. I'm tired. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.